that demand implies that you're sought after and you have good skills and all that. So by definition, you want your trainer to be subscribed.
Gotcha.
And so that means there's often times where you can't match your schedules, but I still want your guidance and I still want that relationship and everything like that. Hi, I'm Trent Ward. I'm the CEO and founder of FORME. And today on Never Forward Radio, here to talk about the power of human connection and coaching and reaching your fitness goals. And over the past 2 years, it's become so clear to us how we need people, we need humans. And our goal here is to focus on connecting you with the best trainers and reforming that market to redefine personal training.
I see you guys all the time at Century City.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I go to One Medical right there.
Well,
and so I stare at the sign when I'm waiting to go back. Yeah, it's great.
It's hard to get people in these stores because it's like there's like not a lot of reason. It's like you go to a car store once to buy the car and then you go back when, so like these things, like same thing, Peloton stores are empty. It's kind of
really, damn. Even like, I feel like the technology behind this stuff is so like, just come in, try it out. Like you got to see it to believe.
Totally. But like it's getting anyone to like footfall or any stuff.
True. Yeah. Now that I say it out loud, the only reason I ever see it is when I get sick. I need to go to the doctor, which isn't, I think I've gone twice this last year. Just to get some like labs. I got my physical. So, I stand corrected, my own thought process. But, dude, Trent, it's been in 4 days, actually, I'm looking at my calendar, exactly 2 years since we did this last time, man. And, nothing in the world has changed in the last 2 years, right?
I mean, just blink. It's just the other day.
It's been like literally like that. I remember sitting down with you, kind of learning about what you're doing, this technology behind FORME. And I felt like at the time it was so pertinent, so necessary. I mean, still is, which we'll get into, but just 2 years ago when everyone was fighting tooth and nail to like get equipment, to work out, to stay active, to interact, to have community, to see another human being. I felt like you guys are bringing it all to the table. It's like this perfect storm for what you all offer. What's the journey been like these last 2 years, kind of navigating that?
It's been a journey. Definitely. I mean, I think about open, close, all of that, the stuff we've forgotten. Hard to operate a company in that regard, hard to do supply chain. Everyone learned all these things, about either COVID or supply chain or stuff that you just don't really want to think about.
Supply chain. Two words I never want to hear again.
And just the alternate reality that was that. And now we're back to a new reality that's kind of more normal. And I think some things stay and some things go. I started this business pre-pandemic and all the reasons I wanted to do it and the drivers are still there, right? Like convenience time, at home still works, but it was never the only option. And now it's still not the only option. It was just that we were in a weird place for 2 years. I think it opened people's minds to it, right? Definitely behavioral change, clearly changed the trajectory of our business in terms of what we're doing. The funny thing is it actually brought everything back to where I started, which was seeing a personal trainer at home.
Really?
Right. I mean, like literally.
I remember that story.
And I a little bit tried to digitize that and kind of replace that in a way, partly because I thought people were going to continue to see trainers in gyms and it was expensive and not many people can do it. And now we're back to trying to get a personal trainer live in your house, right? But just in a different way. And it sort of, it all came back to the right place of actually, I really want to coach. I want to do it at home. How do I do that more conveniently, less expensively, all of that. So I think the yearning for human connection that we were missing highlighted that there is no replacing it. But I still want something convenient. I want this. And so long journey to get all the way through there. And like, whenever I look at the years, I'm sort of like, where did they go? But it feels like we're in the right place now. Everything feels like this was the original vision that I didn't know yet, right? The clouds sort of parted, and now I'm like, okay, this is actually what was probably deep down as the inspiration from the beginning. I just wasn't open to it, or didn't think that the world would be open to it, and I think COVID made it possible. And I really realized lots of things around that.
Cracked open every possibility.
Yeah. So opened up the other idea about remote company versus in person. Haven't squared that one yet. Genie's out of the bottle. We got a lot of remote people. There's no way to put it back in.
Know. Yeah. No one's running back to their office willingly, or at least not the same frequency, like Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 kind of thing.
I mean, I feel like in LA, people were already into, like, there was never a 9 to 5 or Monday to Friday just because of traffic. Like,
I would go outside and like, no one works here. Like, what are you doing?
People get done when they need to get stuff done. And so this culture here has always been like that. I started working from home in 2015. Not because of choice. It was just like I'd left my job and I was working at home, right? And so I know it's really good for me. It fits my life. I have a young baby. I see her 10 times a day, like, which is so different than like my father leaving and my mother, both my parents worked. They'd leave in the morning. I mean, so I think there's a lot of great things about it. But then every time you get together with people, you're like, wait, this is good too. Yeah. And so what's the right frequency? How do you do that? You know, the funny thing is we have a New York office now too. So we got San Francisco, New York, London. New York's the most convenient one for all of us, right? Like,
how so?
We got people all over the country. It's like, it's, you know,
kind of like central between San Fran and London for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's no one really in London except for it's me, but even just like East Coast people, we've got a couple people that they live in secondary cities that don't have nonstop to LA. Like they have a connection. Everyone's got a nonstop to New York. So just, and there's an element of everyone's on, like no one's on home turf. It's all visitor. And so kind of everyone's engaged. It's not you're the remote person that's in this week. I'm going to go do my stuff, you know, my normal life. No, we're all here. So it's almost like an offsite, if you will. So that's been interesting. So just learning, trying it out, figuring it out. But yeah, other than that, it's been quite a journey.
You said human connection a couple of times in there. And I think the last 2 years, my opinion, my insight is that human connection, we've been reminded of how important it is and how much we actually crave it more than maybe we realize or even wanted to admit. But especially when it comes to taking care of ourselves physically, mentally, but in this case, you know, our physical health, exercise. Do you think that was the driving force behind what you all had to navigate most the last 2 years? Or did the audience, did the clientele, did the market kind of show you? Because I feel like the public, we the people, took a lot of power back the last 2 years in terms of being able to voice our opinion of this is what we want, how we want it, when we want it, price. It really, I think, became a consumer's market for damn near everything, but especially when it comes to fitness. Was it the human connection aspect that you guys really were navigating the most and trying to drive home? Or was there something else that was rising to the top from your audience?
You know, we things like human connection we take for granted until they're gone. And so it's not we all know it now because we've been reminded of it, but it's not that you don't wake up and go, I want human connection today. But when you go through an experience with someone, you're reminded of it.
Yeah.
And so it's secondary in a way. It's really important. It's critical. But I think the real driver is once you start accomplishing your goals, you get really excited. We learn a new skill. You want to do more of it. And when you have a coach that's there to hold your hand or to guide you, you end up in a different place. And it's often like, you know, one of the most powerful things we did, you know, so we instituted live one-to-one training. And I think we'll consolidate that market. Like I think we will be the brand for personal training in the space. You know, we have the beautiful hardware and the connected hardware with digital content and all of that.
And you guys partnered with Barry's, correct me if I'm wrong.
Partnered with Barry's. You know, they were trying to figure out their at-home option and this, and you know, that relationship's kind of taken its natural course, and they're great partners, and we really enjoyed working with them. And they're like, okay, worlds are open. We're going to open stores and we're going to do this. And so, you know, they still have digital offering, but it's not as relevant in kind of the new world and kind of where it is. And
as in people are wanting to come back to the in-person stuff.
Totally. I mean, look, one of the reasons we were attracted to Barry's was their experience is best in class, right? Everyone loves going there. It's great.
A cult. Like cult following.
Community cult. Yeah. No, they're fantastic. And navigating in-person to digital was something like everyone was trying to figure out. It feels like everyone's going back to their knitting in a way. You see it with a lot of the brands. People are moving back to actually what their core thing is. And I think that's one of the outcomes of the pandemic was it's hybrid. Right? Happy to get on the phone or Zoom. Also, we can meet in person, but now there's a real reason to decide one way or the other. Whereas I think everything, the default was, let's just get together. Right?
Yeah.
And now there's two clear use cases. And so I think both those worlds exist. And you see it in the numbers, candidly. If you look at any gym or boutique, they're all down 10, 15% in volume. They're not back to where they were. The strong spots are still there. And then at home, still good. But it's not Peloton January 2021, right? So the market has expanded with options. And as you said, the consumer has more options and they kind of demand what they want. And that's great, right? Because ultimately the consumer's always right. I'm a very market-driven person. The market's always right. And so I think for us, it was really more, I can do this stuff on my own or I can have someone help me. Knowing you need the help is probably the harder part, right? And I think there's such a perception around personal trainers. Oh, it's a dude who first of all, everyone thinks it's a dude. And second of all, it's like
some meathead.
Yeah, right. And they count my reps and they go, come on, do it harder. Right?
One more.
Yeah.
One more.
Yeah. Way to go.
And it'll be $200.
And by the way, you were 15 minutes late, so it was only 40 minutes. Right?
Exactly.
All that stuff. When you actually work with these very well-educated, super qualified trainers, they're coaches, they got all these other skills, and you do these things that you wouldn't have done on your own, you didn't even know you need to do. And it's like going to the doctor, and you walk out and you're like, oh, I feel better. I look, everything. So one of the most powerful things we did, because I would be like, oh, guys, personal training. And you could see these blank stare from the team. And I was like, have any of you guys done personal training? And they're like, oh, it's not for me or this. And I was like, look, it's a price point thing and it's a cultural thing.
I know
and
enough
stuff
around the gym to do what I want.
Or just, I didn't like the dude with all the muscles.
Intimidation factor is very real. Yeah.
Lots of stuff. Lots of reasons for it. Didn't see the value in it. We had everyone in the company do personal training. And then we surveyed them before and after.
Interesting.
And willingness to pay was here, and then after 4 sessions, it was here.
Damn.
And it moved up to market price.
Wow.
It was sort of one of the things you had some people that knew the price already, but other people were like, it's worth this. And we started to get hey, if we don't continue this employee pilot, could I pay for this? Or could we, the eye-opening experience, one of the team members sent me an email and he's like, when you asked me that 6 weeks ago or 8 weeks ago, I was like, whatever. And now I'm like, I get it. So it's
the value realization happened.
Totally. And I see that, and we see that with every other business we talk to that has some element of coaching or personal training. The perception of what it is and the value is so different than once you actually do it. But you can watch people turn into evangelists once you kind of get there. And it's, okay, so that wasn't for the human connection, but wow, I really value my time with this person. And I don't want to go back to just watching a video, right? So it's a secondary thing, and it's a very, very important thing, but it's not the part that goes first. You really got to get trial. Really, really got to get people to do it, and then the value sort of becomes self-evident. And sometimes we have a lot of very experienced trainers. We hired a lot of people from one of the bigger gym chains during the COVID because they were looking for jobs, and everyone's just like, yeah. People always come back to it. You do the intro sessions, they don't do it. You talk to them again in 3 months, 6 months, and you're like, do you want help now? And then once they get on that path, they never really get off. And so
I bet,
yeah, it's it was something we observed and something we learned, and I think it is the answer, right? How can I get a very qualified coach to motivate you, give you expert guidance, and have it be convenient? And that's the big thing. And so when I look at what's driving the business today, it's stuff that I could take out of, your business school book. It's normal things like offline to online, labor market utilization, labor market arbitrage. It's not behavioral change. It's making it's making a service more available and less expensive, right?
Which is pretty universal. That's a good thing. Like every business, do more of that. Absolutely, yeah.
So, I think when you look at that market, remember when we were younger, like boutique fitness didn't exist. We're old enough, like we remember it was just a gym.
It was like an aerobic center or the gym.
And then people started to go, let's share this trainer and go to this thing, and it's a little smaller and more personalization and more engagement, and we'll pay a little more for it. And you kind of had gym up to boutique. There's personal training up here, and there's a gap between boutique and personal training. So we're basically bringing personal training down to like boutique prices.
Yeah, like that happy medium. Yeah.
And that, I think, drives really good outcomes for people.
Do you feel like you all had to kind of navigate the content world as well? I feel like the nature of this software in the hardware is content. It's someone showing up on a much bigger screen than this, my iPhone here, guiding you through live in a workout session. But given the last 2 years, I mean, anybody that was definitely in the online space or getting into the online space, especially all of our other coaches and trainers out there, you had to become pretty familiar with the content scene. How can I make my stuff quality? How can I stand apart? How can I get engaged audience members and ideally clients? Did you have to kind of factor the content game factor in as well? Or did you already have like a really established model that was working of just, we put someone on a screen and they lead a workout?
Definitely trial and error, right? And you can shoot a piece of content and then you watch it and you go, it's not great. Or like, wow, that was really good. And then decoding why, right, is really, I'm sure like you'll do episodes and then like that one was great or that one was not. And what is
something that I love and it will crash and burn or like barely do anything more and vice versa. It's so you can't depict the shit.
It's, we've got an incredibly talented content team. Being in LA is there's talent everywhere. This is the town. And so we ended up with this wonderful producer, Jessie, and she's total pro and everyone she works with is a total pro. Like they were able to be like, oh, actually the reason you're feeling that is this, watch this. Like there's a science to it. They figured it out. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, the funny thing is when there's a casting element to it and
like you want a personality in people's homes leading these
likability.
Workouts. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's very common for people to come in and go, I want someone that looks like Brad Pitt, that's charming, that's this. And they're like, by the way, that would be Brad Pitt and they would not be working here, right? So it's, when you come in with a fitness personality, there's a lot of, come on, you can do it. And that gets really repetitive, especially when you're doing on demand and it's not live.
Oh, yeah.
But we saw the same thing with personal training where when the pandemic started and everyone started doing virtual personal training, a lot of clients were like, this sucks. I don't want to do this. This isn't as good. And they churned. And then you had other clients who were like, actually, this is just as good. And I like my own bathroom better than the one at the gym, right? And I don't have to park.
Yeah.
And we're like, what's the difference? And we realized we started interviewing trainers and going through it. Trainers that had very strong coaching and cueing skills, it made the difference. So in the gym, there's girls and guys walking around. It's exciting. There's music. There's stuff. Your trainer has a supporting cast to keep your engagement.
True. Yeah.
When it's just you looking at me like this, like
all the pressure's on the trainer,
and it's quiet. Maybe there's music, maybe there's not. But all of a sudden, it's a bright spotlight. And if you haven't developed the skills to coach and cue without touch and other stuff, it's very hard. But using it, so it's a vocabulary thing, it's a direction thing. Like there's a science to it. We had acting coaches, we had other people. Like
really,
there's a lot going on there.
Interesting.
So how do you make something that's pre-recorded feel fresh? Giving the viewer an orientation to what they're seeing as well. Right, like, okay, hey, you're doing this, look up at the top left of the screen. All of a sudden, you actually think they're talking to you, but they just pointed out what you're looking at. So there's a learning component where you sort of communicate your environmental awareness to the user.
True. Yeah, you got to walk them through the experience, as if you're really there.
Yeah. So there's that. But once you kind of figure it out, then it works. But there's nothing that replaces someone seeing you. Not so much for there's a lot of this content is entertainment or entertainment or this other stuff, and it's great and you can reach a lot of people. But there's the thing with the fitness industry, and I didn't come from the fitness industry, but as an able-bodied person who likes this stuff, you sort of assume everyone else is like you, and you realize it's actually a pretty small population. Most of fitness is self-serve. It's like, hey, here's some equipment, go use it. Yeah. And maybe there's someone that's kind of showing you, but there's a step before this. It's like the instruction manual. Like, let me see how your body moves. Are you able to do this? Are you doing the right things? Moving well before moving often. Incredibly important. And so
look at your kinetic chain, look at your mobility, everything. Look at your gait, look at, anything, how can you even drop down into a squat just standing before I even try to load you with anything?
I mean, these trainers we have will look at me like, oh, what happened to your left shoulder? Did you injure that? Did you have this? And they're like, how did you? It's like, you see me.
I tore my rotator cuff 3 years ago. How did you know?
Exactly. They are experts, and that means all the difference, right? It's like the doctor first do no harm, right? These skilled trainers or coaches have that skill. They look at you and they go, hey, this is not good for you. How do we fix this? And that's about as personalized as you get. Like recommendation engine for the next piece of content, different, right? Like this is I have someone that looks out after me. They design a program for me, my schedule, so I don't have to think about it. That's amazing, right? And you start to deliver that to more and more people by making it more accessible. Because if you think about personal training, you walk into a physical store, they say, I'd like to buy a service. They're like, well, we have this one left on the shelf. It's the only, and you sort of have adverse selection, and or maybe you ask a friend, so analog search. So it's pretty outdated in terms of how that service is consumed. The digitization of it brings costs down, makes it more accessible, all this, so I'm a 6 p.m. type workout person, end of the day. You don't get in your car at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. in LA. And you also can't find a trainer.
No.
So I turn on my form, and there's my trainer, and he's based on the East Coast, and it's 9 o'clock, and he's never has a client that conflicts with my schedule, right?
That's amazing.
So, but if I wanted to see him at 5 or 6 p.m. in New York, he'd be booked, right? So it's that type of accessibility that allows me to have a great trainer in my home at the right time.
I mean, the technology here is incredible. And you guys, I'm going to link the first episode. We talked about really kind of the tech and bringing this to market. I'll have a link for you down in the show notes and stuff. But given how demand, use, content was in high demand the last 2 years, I feel like there was a little bit of a tech race as well, because so many at-home workout videos or streaming services or apps, were coming to market out of demand for, hey, we're all at home now. And when I was looking at them, because I would run through a few, and I feel like some got me because of the tech, meaning, oh yeah, while we're doing this live stream on your iPad, whatever, I can draw a line, I can show you how your back isn't straight, and I can freeze frame it, and we can go back and I can kind of use the tech as an assessment tool in conjunction with what I'm seeing live in person. Does that really matter in this case? Do you feel like, is it the tech race? Is that really is that how we're going to serve people the most? Is I've got the coolest, spiffiest piece of technology? Or is it that human connection component we're talking about and the likability that is really going to keep people adherent? Because, in the fitness space, that's, I think, the ultimate thing that matters is how can we get people to do the thing, keep them coming back to do the thing so that they get well and stay well?
I mean, I sort of put my cards on the table with this one already, but look, I think there were a lot of technologists, well-funded tech companies who said, look at this tech, it's cool, what do I do with it? And that's not what drives people. And that's not what I think gives a high efficacy solution. So I'm in the human expert camp, much more than the tech camp. I think eventually we get there, but everything I see in the market, especially like computer vision and movement, remember that game Operation where you're like,
oh yeah.
you know, if you touch the side, you know, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
That's what like most of this looks like. Like all the ones I've sort of tried, you do something wrong, goes,
I got you. Yeah.
And I was like, I play a lot of sports. Coaches never interrupted me in the middle of something. They'd be like, hey, listen, here's what happened on the last play.
Wrong. Yeah, that's not really beneficial.
No, but hey, here's what we were doing wrong. Here's the correct motion. Let's work on it. Let's practice and drill this and get better at that skill. That's how I learned every sport. Weight training is also a sport, right? Like, so when I see that they're trying to digitize instruction and replace the coach with that, I'm like, that's just not how it works from how I learned or how I think most of the stuff is taught. It feels fake, right? And so I'm not sure how useful it is now. It makes you feel more confident that there's something there maybe, and that's great because that gets people to do it. But like, so one of those companies that's their big focus is I was told the story that the founders really wanted it to be like a weightlifting like performance company, and every single one of the members that they were getting or customers were getting were like total beginners because they were relying upon, oh, this is going to solve it for me, or this is going to do it for me. And, you know, talk about not knowing your customer, but it was a false sense of like, oh, this will solve it for me. And when you're talking about people that are not 25 and people that like maybe a little older, or getting injured is a real thing, and it's really hard to recover. And it becomes a bigger and bigger fear as you get older.
You're navigating exercise while injured. I mean,
or they choose not to. They go hide in the elliptical, right? I mean, you know, I have to imagine you've probably had the conversation with plenty of people be like, you should lift weights. And people are like, I don't want to, or I don't want to be in that part of the gym, or I'm going to get injured. And it's like, I literally last night at dinner was talking to a couple of the couples at the table, and they were all mid 40s. And a little more European, so like less into the American gym scene, and they were visiting, and I was like, look, guys, you should really lift weights. And they're just like, oh, but either I don't eat that much, I'm French, right? Or that's an American thing because you guys overeat, you know, or I do, you know, cycling, or I do this. And I'm like, that's good. But like resistance training, guys, like this is what you need, but it's not something that's like that out there. So anything to get people to do resistance training is great. So I'm in favor of the computer vision and everything, but I also think that it's not a great solution for learning a skill, or for kind of the risk of getting it wrong, I'd say. But even the whole, hey, you tore your rotator cuff 3 years ago, that machine didn't see that.
Right,
and
exactly,
it won't.
yeah.
You know, but it affected your movement pattern, and it's going to affect what we prescribe for you.
Yeah, well, I've been called out by like some therapists and even trainers, you know, when, you know, I'm kind of trying to get a baseline again, they'll look at me like, oh, what's going on with your left side?
Wait, did you really tear it?
Really? That was a true story. Yeah.
I mean, it looks unbalanced to me.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Really? Damn. Wow.
And I mean, I'm not a professional. I play one on TV, but on podcast. But
I was squatting of all things. Squatting. I was dropped down in the hole, heard this really loud snap pop thing, and felt something I never want to feel again. And it took all of my like mental fortitude and literal physical strength to not drop this weight. I was doing like a heavy single. And I was like, what the hell was that? Stood back up and I was like, why is my shoulder excruciating? And I just did a squat, tore my rotator cuff. That hurts a lot.
Too much weight, didn't warm up. What movement pattern different?
A little bit of all that, but it turns out I had some on again, off again kind of left side chain issues going on that turned into, you know, clear compensation issues, and then getting under the bar the wrong angle compensating, like not having it sit properly on my trap, my back. I typically do like a high bar squat, and so it's just all those things kind of being the perfect storm for an injury. Yeah. But also the last couple of years, as a struggle as it was for a lot of things, and, you know, keeping on topic here of working out, physical activity, the technology and what you guys have done has brought that to the table, and a lot of people have been able to stay fit and connect and have that human connection aspect. What about other unique opportunities? I feel like in any kind of time where we're forced, especially as business owners or just human beings trying to survive, trying to stay well, there's like, I have to find certain ways to maintain what I'm used to doing, but things are a little bit different now. So how can I get creative? Did you guys find anything like that, like a unique opportunity, or just the fact that you all needed remote trainers? Was that the opportunity for a lot of coaches and trainers that were losing their positions, in real life?
I mean, frankly, I sort of think about our group of trainers as like, those are our first customers, right? Like we built something that allows them to run their business, and to live where they want. Look, you worked at home, I work at home, you sometimes go to an office. They're both good solutions. The step change for a trainer from working at home versus working in the gym or the office, massive, right? I go early, I wait around for a couple clients, and I wait, and I do like,
yeah.
And by the way, because personal training is an expensive service, you need to be around rich people, which means you live in an expensive place. Like, it's cool when you're 25 and you're like, in it and like learning and all this. It's not so cool when you're 40 and you got 2 kids, and it's a tough life. And when they took the step back, and a lot of them moved out of New York, right, or LA, and they had more space, they got to be around their kids more. They didn't have to pay for childcare as much, which, childcare is probably the biggest regressive cost out there.
Oh, I bet.
Right. It's huge.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, all these women have this choice between, I want to go back to work, but everything I make goes to the person taking care of my kid. What am I doing? Yeah. Right. And it's, and so, parents have that struggle. If you can work from home, that changes that. You can live in a less expensive place. You can do all this stuff. And also the time when you're waiting between clients, you can do other things. Total quality of life change for them. And so they largely had a lot of clients, and they didn't make a lot of money per session when they were in a gym. And then it flipped to, okay, gym's gone, I'm getting paid direct, but man, I lost a lot of clients, and how do I grow my business? And so,
or even just maintain.
Yeah. Oh, I'm one kind of churning client away from not making rent, right? So for them, it was their income levels actually didn't change that much, because that switch from low price, high volume to high price, low volume.
The dollar amount kind of stayed.
Kind of going to stay the same, but fragile, because there weren't people walking through the door every day. Higher quality of life. So they kind of had this, okay, this is good, but how do I grow my business and how do I meet people? And so, we really give them the tools to do that. And that is great for them. So I actually, part of the ambition here is reforming the labor market. Right? Because, going back to the big dudes with muscles, like oftentimes you played sports and then you went to a gym and you became a trainer. There are a lot of people who are great coaches who don't fit that mold.
Oh yeah.
And especially
don't really look the part of the trainer.
Who probably don't stay in that profession or don't consider the profession. Whereas like, hey, here's the the kinesiology degree in this, and here's an iPad. Like, go coach and run a business. On-demand work for women that had children that can't go sit in the gym all day, but actually still have time and they want to work. Great for that. So participation from more women back in the labor force. There's a lot of things that actually it totally reforms it, and people are really connected to their trainer, right? Like, this is a person who's taking care of you on a regular basis and thinking about you. It's a real relationship.
A good one usually becomes like your therapist also.
It's the person you see more often than anyone else, right? And so I think we've developed a system and a business that actually helps them live a much more sustainable life, and a little bit celebrates them for them being great people, right? So that's cool too. Like I was always excited about the member and helping people, but actually I'm probably more excited about like developing something for trainers to really have a real career. Because I got into this when I was young, and now I'm 40 and I actually can't go do something else, but like, is this really a career? Can I retire? How does this fit into a life? I think navigating that and having this be a sustainable path and saying, listen, coaching someone and helping other people should be remunerated differently, and it should be a higher quality of life, and like this should be a sustainable path, and we should encourage more people to get into it because it's really, really good. And the current way it's set up, where you go to a big box in an expensive metro area, doesn't really work, because the yield on your time of I've been here for 14 hours and I'm getting 4 or 5 clients doesn't work. Like you don't have a life. Whereas if I can actually work off, okay, I did the peak period here in this time zone, and then I did the peak period in the next time zone, I can get my work done and go back to my life and see my family, and I can live where I want.
Yeah.
Game changer. So I think that shift is happening, right? And what it does is it brings the cost of training down. It puts, very highly skilled people effectively on a screen in your home. And that becomes sort of circular and helps everyone. So that was new and that was exciting. I hadn't appreciated how little trainers kept of the session in the gym, because the only trainer I'd worked with just came to me direct, and it was a friend. And when I learned that, I was like, oh, this is classic disintermediation, offline retail to online retail, capacity utilization. So these things are I think really exciting because it's a complex problem to solve, but it's a really important problem to solve.
Yeah. Someone who's been at the helm of the ship in this fitness business over the last couple of years, what has been the most difficult thing you've had to navigate? Is it the coaches? Is it the clientele? Is it the tech? I mean, is it needing to stay one step ahead of what people need and are demanding, because the landscape for training has changed so much the last couple of years? Has there been one main thing that has been the most difficult to navigate, and how did you?
Feels like there's always a new fire.
I'm sure. Go through the Rolodex.
Yeah. No, I'm actually suppressing all those traumas. I'm not quite ready to deal with them.
I'm still in denial.
Yeah,
I'm fine. This is fine.
I'm just gonna pretend the past 2 years didn't happen.
Yeah.
No, I think in general, starting a company from scratch is hard, right? Startup life is hard. There's a lot of times I realize there is nothing else to do other than just kind of move forward, right? And, name of the show. And it really, like, I'm not gonna say showing up's half the battle, but like it's a lot of it. And I've realized, I think obviously as we get older, become more self-aware about things. I hadn't quite realized what an optimistic person I am. I thought I was a realist. I was like, I recognize people are pessimistic. They their attitude. And I was like, dude, there's a solution here. Find it. And that's just how I've been wired.
Talking about like people like
in the team, like everything. And it's like
navigating these problems.
And you sort of look at it and you're like, wow, if you were sitting in my seat, this wouldn't have happened. And so it's not saying that anything kind of special about me. It's more just, this job or starting something or this, like, you do need the reality distortion field. You need to believe that you can do it, and you need to just keep pushing. And there's...
So the challenges I'm hearing are kind of been more like internal, just like navigating the unique dynamics of how your team needs to function to still provide this service and product at the same level.
I think just doing anything from 0 to 1 is hard, right? And that is gotten harder during the pandemic when stuff's lost in communication because it's not in person. Like everything feels more challenging. So if you took a traditional startup life where you got to keep pushing, and then you kind of put molasses on the floor, right? Like, and then knock a tree down. So like it made it harder, but it's still actually that same, like, you just got to push. I'd say on the technology side, didn't know what I didn't know, definitely made some mistakes, but the people who were there were telling me, like, I believed them, right? And and it was only, it's like when you're in a bad relationship and then you get in a good one, you don't realize, like, oh, this is completely different. We got very lucky with this. My partner Deepak joined us, and he'd been the head of engineering at Peloton from 2017 to 2019.
So not Chopra, everybody.
Not Chopra.
Okay.
And
I could see him crushing a workout before him, though.
Oh, I mean, with his mind. And Deepak was kind of in LA and sort of started working with us, and he's like, "Oh no, that's not a problem. That's not a problem. I can fix." Like it was just like rearranging everything and just real clarity about we're gonna just get this done. All of a sudden, technology went from this thing that was like very time consuming and stressful to, oh, there's really good people and professionals there, and so it comes back to team, right? That solves that, and then it moves to the next problem and the next problem, and it is the just pushing forward. There's not one thing, but I think that as you go through each boulder, you kind of get to the next one and next one. I do have a dream of like a normal sustainable life, like where it's just like where you just you just like wake up every day and there isn't a fire to put out.
Let me know when you hit that.
I'll let you know.
Please.
You know.
Yeah, I'll sign up for your masterclass on how you achieve that.
No, you have to imagine, you have to believe that it's going to be there. Otherwise you wouldn't keep pushing. Yeah, no, it's remote's. I haven't quite gotten in my head. Remote's really good for me. I love working at home. I have to imagine, and I know it's good for other people, but we're also better together. I don't know what the right way of solving that is. Yeah. I know all in the office is bad because quality of life is so much better. How do you do that? Is that just additional friction that we deal with? It costs her in different places in a way that, what skills do you need to develop more that like, because I was in an office my whole life. Yeah. I may not have the right skills yet to communicate in a remote world. You know, how much of it's that? Like we're all doing this new for the first time. You can't rely upon the muscles that you had developed before. I think that's a constant learning for everyone. But it's the technology stuff was I guess after the general startup move forward thing, the tech stuff was challenging, but because we had the wrong team, right? Yeah, I think, or we didn't have the right team, right? So it goes back to people.
And I think team's a really important concept here. A lot of times I'm just imagining imagining myself when I left my job as a in-person, in-practice coach, trainer, to doing it all myself and online. It's like I didn't lose the education. I didn't lose the knowledge, the experience, the skill set. Did I already say certification? But it was like a totally different world because I was doing it all myself. And I'm just thinking of like how much lighter my load got and how much better the business got, and how much better my quality of life got when like 2 years later, like a year to two later, I started expanding and I added team members, added other coaches and stuff like that. Do you think is that really what maybe a lot of coaches are struggling with the most right now, still coming out of this, are we in person, are we online kind of role? You know, and if they lean more into the team of, hey, let's all of us come together, you know, I'm an expert in this, you're an expert in that, you know, kind of do a collective approach. Is the team dynamic really what maybe a lot of coaches are missing right now to survive and thrive?
I think it's individual, meaning some people need different things. I think everyone needs community, right? And everyone needs that. And I do think it's if we're in, one of the main draws of working in a box in a gym is you have community of people around you. Working on your own is hard. And I think we're trying to put something out there that allows you to do both, right? To have some level of team and community. It's definitely one of the things that our trainers talk about as being important to them. I'm trying to think if the trauma of, am I going to have a job or not? And like, what's my career going to look like? That I don't know, like, and what's this new world? And am I doing this or not? Like, I think, or how does this work? Like, I think there's still a lot of open questions. Right? It's their life completely changed. Some people are faster to adapt than others. And I think it's just getting used to it still. So there's still a calibration for people. Hard to know on the team thing. I'll tell you, when they're able to do the job and help people, which is the thing they love to do, everything's just good. And so maybe, absolutely. So like I've seen that it's like they get excited and the light goes on when they start to see the technology support this and it becomes sustainable. And so like there's an awakening for them. That I guess a lot of that actually is what a team is. It's support, it's strength in places that you don't have.
Yeah.
Okay. I got the answer. Yes. I was trying to think of what the journey is with that, because I'm not always in those conversations. And now that I think about like the verbatims that I've read and other stuff, like it is expressed as team. I mean, a lot of it's around the team that's helping the trainers and the technology. But that is ultimately, it's Deepak in his hands now.
Yeah. What does the future hold for you guys? And what does the future hold, do you think, for where we're at now? Going into 2023, so many boutique gyms and fitness centers are back open again, yet a lot of us maybe aren't back out there as much or at all. We kind of gotten used to technology and access and convenience, and we built a life around services like yours. What does the future hold in terms of, maybe are you guys pivoting in the technology, or are you like holding the line? I mean, what are you kind of most hopeful for? Where are you going next in the next year?
So, the irony of the tech thing is we're doubling down on people, right?
Interesting.
There is no substitute for a live person. Now, there are constraints with that, cost, time, other stuff. So, for example, I can't see my coach 3 times a week. Like, to find an hour in my schedule that matches with his schedule.
To get like the same trainer, that frequency.
I got my trainer.
But you can get 3 sessions in a week.
Correct.
Different people.
So I do one. No. So I do one with him.
Okay.
Maybe 2 depending on the schedule. But then he programs the hardware for me. Okay. And so like my workout's there as if he were there.
Okay.
In the old school world, it was like, hey, I'm going away this weekend, and they like write a plan down and hand it a piece of paper.
Workout. Yeah.
But now it's like on a screen, and I follow, and he knows whether they did it or not, and so that just makes it easier. And so it's let's make sure that the coach is there, but then how do we add technology to make that relationship stretchier and more flexible? The irony is, if your schedule changes, which it does, if you're a busy person, you don't want your coach to be available. Like,
true.
Like, you call the restaurant and be like, hey, do you think we could get there Friday night at 8 p.m.? Sure. Or 7 or 9. You want 2 people? 8. You're like, oh, I don't know if I want this. It's ironic, but in
fact, I'll just be on the Zoom call the whole time. You just drop in whenever you're ready. I'll be here.
Yeah. No, we want you in high demand. Like, wow, I because that demand implies that you're sought after and you have good skills and all that. So by definition, you want your trainer to be subscribed.
Gotcha.
And so that means there's often times where you can't match your schedules, but I still want your guidance and I still want that relationship and everything like that. So technology to do that. So one thing is creating demand or creating a supply with other demand. So all those trainers in New York at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., there's no demand for their time, really. There's a lot of demand for the time at 6 p.m., 5 p.m. So balancing that out. So it is doubling down on how do we just make it easier for you to connect with a human.
There it is.
That is, and an expert who's going to help you. So it's something we've always talked about as technology in service of the people as opposed to in replacing the people.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
So it's that. And
this is supplemental, not a replacement. Yeah.
Look, if you look at all the trends that happened during COVID and then back to trend line, and you're like, okay, that was fake. Well, one of the things that didn't change is work from home. That's the one that hasn't snapped back, right? That's kind of like was the down, and then it's up a little bit, but it's kind of there. It's there. That was a permanent shift. And I think that's a continuing trend, as you said, the convenience of all this sort of stuff. There is demand for that. And I think that's where we're pushing into. It wasn't there's a gym that's closed and you have to do this with me. It's, I can go to the gym, but I choose to do this. And that's where we're really focused. And I think the choose thing and the thing that consumers want is always someone that motivates them, someone they can trust who's really an expert, and someone they can connect with, And so that's what we're doing. I wake up in the mornings after my sessions. I think I saw a friend last night. Like, it's like, I feel like I went out, like I had a chat with the guy, Josh. And so, that, I think all those things are like, I can see my experience with this. I could every one of our employees who went from no training to, oh, wow, this is interesting. Like, you really see the lights come on, and then you know you're onto something. And so that's what it is. That I think is the clearest signal of where we're going.
Everything you guys do, I mean, from this conversation and our last, it brings it home for me. My inner coach, my inner trainer just gets lit up and so happy because I think back to the years, again, I was in practice, and no matter what I came up with, I'm going to come up with the coolest, most cutting edge workout, or like this diet's cool, this supplement. We build a lot of hype around it, and we do this ourselves.
You tell yourself that of how
exactly, yeah. But ultimately, the only thing that matters in an exercise routine, in a wellness plan, in taking care of our bodies is adherence. Consistency. How can I keep doing this thing or things long term? Because long term is the only thing that matters. If you got a great workout now for this month, but you're done for the rest of the year, in 50 years, it doesn't freaking matter, So I love how you guys are problem solving, delivering cutting edge technology, accessibility for the user, for the coach, providing so many opportunities. But what you said really, I think, is the secret sauce here. Problem solving, but still helping people keep choice. Say, hey, we have a solution to something that you're probably looking for right now, but it's not, this is it. And I think anytime in the fitness and nutrition space, when anything is like, this is the answer, run.
It's not the answer.
Run. But you're like, hey, this is a very viable option. And if you choose it and if you adhere to it, you're going to see the results. You're going to be happy. You're going to have the connection. But ultimately, it provides freedom on top of adherence, because the user is going to realize, you know what, I could have been doing this all along. I love the accessibility of stuff I got at home, but also like I can get this, or I can get this and I think that is a really, really valuable component when we're looking at adherence for anybody.
It's much easier to be at the extremes of all or nothing, right? It's really hard to have one drink. No is easier, and 10 is easier, right? I
have this joke with my wife. I'm like, if I'm going to have one glass of wine, I'm having 2. And if I'm having 3, I'm having 8. It's just like the human experience. I can't even let go of that. We
have some friends randomly in town invited us to dinner last night, and my wife's like, we just got back from some travels, and it's like, we're not going to drink for a couple weeks. And I was like, don't say that. Let's just,
why do we do that?
You're setting yourself up for failure. Yeah. And she goes, after we got invited, she goes, oh wait, what about my 2 weeks? And I was like, this is why I told you not to. Like, the problem is, America's like a big thing of extremes. It's just, you got to go all the way. Sustainability beats intensity when it comes to working out, but it's completely unsexy, right? Like the adherence, like no one says adherence is sexy.
Yeah.
Like,
no one's advertising like it's like the best workout, the best results. Yo, come on in, I got adherence, I got longevity. How do you even bottle that?
So our chief fitness advisor, Harley, who's our big celebrity trainer guy, amazing guy, and one of the reasons I love him so much, he's just like, that's stupid. Don't do that. Like, no, just eat some real food, lift some weights. No, don't do it too much. Just and do some walking. Like, but where's the secret? Oh, you have all these celebrities that, and it's just like, it's no secret. It's
this multiple times a week for the rest of your life.
And by the way, on Halloween, eat candy.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, and if you really want that Pop-Tart, go ahead and eat it. Like, but it's you want hard and fast rules and a certain outcome. And unfortunately, that's not how life is. And it takes a while to lose that perfectionism of it's got to be one way. Which when you design it, I think that's one of the other things is you design your own workout plan, and you're like, I'm going to do this, and this is this. The moment you're out of compliance, it's easy to throw it away and think you failed.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
When there's a coach doing it and you're doing it there, oh, it's right, get back on, right? And so there's a different way of doing it. Like they allow you to fail, they allow you to do it, and then get you back on. Whereas when you're also being your own coach, you're really hard on yourself. I mean, that's one of the biggest issues we have as humans is we're really hard on ourselves. We beat each other up all the time.
A quote, failure usually means for a lot of us ending. Yeah. Whereas failure under the advisement of a coach, it's just like, okay, let's bring it back. Let's drop the weight. Let's come back. Let's go back to basics.
Hey, celebrate that you got one thing done or this, or your body needed the rest for that. Or you need to go out and have 10 drinks. No, I
don't recommend that.
But
unless you're gonna have a morning recovery. Have you had those, by the way?
I haven't.
Oh my God. I got another one for you. Okay. So the Ketone IQ before, I got hooked on this stuff called morning recovery, and it's like this another little like shot drink, kind of like ketone IQ, where you take it before, during, or after you've had alcohol. I swear, 80% better the next
Really?
day. Like they don't like to use the H word, but I all my friends, non-believers, I'm like, drink this. Now, if I'm having one drink, I drink it because the way that it just like hyper metabolizes alcohol instead of me having to, it just cuts. I mean, I'm 37 now, so it's like I have a glass of wine. The next day, I'm like, I can tell I had a glass of wine. You know, this stuff is amazing. Game changer. Game changer.
I think I've seen the ad on Instagram and I didn't believe it, but now that I'm hearing it from you, I will definitely give it a try.
Just go forward, save 20%. But yeah, they're incredible. They're really, really good.
I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah. But I don't know. I digress.
But no, look, I think sustainability beats intensity. It's about adherence. One of the big things about that, right? And so, people will be like, "Oh, what do you do?" And you tell them like, "Oh, is that the best thing ever?" Or this, and I'm like, listen, let me explain. We're not magic.
Is that what I need to do? Is that what I should do?
No, yeah, it's really simple. Adherence. Just, if you have, the big things are if you get your sleep right, you're good, right? You know, if you don't get your sleep right, you're screwed. Diet, really, really important. Activity is like a smaller correlation in there.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you look at activity, it's do you do it consistently or not? It's not so much what you do. And if you can add weight training or resistance as opposed to not, that's a good thing. But like, unfortunately, it's really unsexy, but the number one thing about activity is doing something consistently. By the way, the ways to do it consistently are have it at home because you don't have the excuses and don't get injured. And it's like
make it as accessible as possible and
as safe as possible,
not hurting you.
And then hopefully you can add some resistance in there because that's pretty well proven as the closest thing you have to a fountain of youth. It's much more fun to say, look at this really hard class that beat your ass and blah, blah, blah. Or, the toughest, like, it's really hard to be like, oh, I just want to kind of be here. And, but that is the answer. And
that's the majority of us too. I think there are a select group of people that want the hardest, most demanding, most kick-ass thing. That's you. That's cool. But, the vast majority of people, we need what we're talking about. We need to feel connection. We need accessibility. We need affordability, and we need consistency.
Yeah, I mean, God, we're boring.
Yeah. It's I love this quote from The One Thing. Have you read that book? From Jay Papasan and Gary Keller, the founders of Keller Williams Realty.
Okay.
I reread this book every January. It blew my mind. Helped me so much with like action item, goal setting, prioritization. Their whole thing is like, I'm going to butcher this quote, but it's like, what is the one thing you can do so that everything else either becomes unnecessary or made easier? That's what the whole book is about. Right. But it's just, they talk about the monotony of success. And like, when you look at like the most outlandish goals or even just the most, okay, that's obtainable for me. And either way, in order to get there, it's boring. It's the same shit day in, day out, or on a very regular basis. It's almost like the goal doesn't even matter. To achieve anything, it takes consistency, and consistency ain't that sexy.
It's really boring. So, I mean, what I do to get out of the monotony of success that I'm having is I go get drunk and be hungover and make it really hard on myself. Until now that I have,
you're a sicko. You're a sicko. All right, yeah.
No, it's it's that consistency is challenging because you're never done, right? And that lack of accomplishment. Or feeling like, and look, I love having like a hard workout and feeling totally spent and be like, that feels great, right? And there's chemicals in your body, endorphins and stuff that help. But it's that this is healthcare, like, and it's no one wants to buy insurance, right? It's boring stuff, like
That's a whole other can of worms. But well, dude, Trent, it's been so good having you back on the show, man. I love what you guys are doing, and I know it served so many people the last couple of years, so that's fantastic. But to bring it back home, to move forward in life, which we've talked about a few times here, ever forward, those two words, how do they land on you here today? I don't remember. I went back and listened to the majority of our conversation this morning, actually. I stopped intentionally to get to the end. I want to get a fresh interpretation. I asked you this before, but 2022, man, ever forward, what does that mean to you?
I mean, it's sort of self-evident, right? It is just moving forward and accepting that not everything's perfect, and just showing up and having that consistency or adherence or whatever is the answer, right? And you have to trust that is the right path, even if it's not clear, and just keep pushing,
even if it's not sexy. If you find a way to make it sexy, let me know.
Yeah,
that'd be cool. That'd be really cool.
Who knew our new ambition was to be as unsexy as possible?
We got to come up with a plan to sell sexy adherence. Can that be a program?
I think that's called bondage.
That's
forced adherence.
That's a premium membership. Well, please let everybody know where they can connect with you and learn more about Form. I'm of course going to have everything down in the show notes and video notes for everybody, but it's just at FORME Life, right? FORME.
FORMElife.com. Instagram, this is FORME Life.
Yeah. And you guys are in stores now and malls. You're here in Century City.
So we're in Century City right here. Online's the best place.
You said you're in New York as well?
Office.
Okay.
Yeah, office. I mean, if you want to come hang out in the office, send me a message. But no, it's we actually next week we're launching live one-to-one training through an iPad. I know that doesn't sound big, but like it's cool.
So taking the same Form experience, but just in
exactly, and
iPad,
just to bring it to more people and to make it easier. I mean, we already do it when we travel, right? But it becomes a seamless experience wherever you are, and so I think the hardware is still amazing, but the real thing we're selling is great coaches, right? And putting you in touch with one of those. So we're making it easier.
And I forget if we reviewed this in our first conversation, but I'm curious for the coach listening maybe right now that wants to diversify their portfolio. Can they become a Form coach trainer? Like, how does that work?
Definitely. I'd imagine I probably should have that. It's probably on the website as well. Like, I think
he's got a guy.
Yeah, no, because we have we've had thousands of people apply for the job. We pretty much we have a whole recruitment education team, like training team that we picked up from another gym. Yeah. And so education's super important. Training, continuing education. We got very skilled coaches. We're always looking for more, definitely, like without a doubt. And we kind of bring in cohorts on a monthly basis and everything. So we're always recruiting for talent.
Yeah, I love that. There's been so much opportunity that's come out of, especially the physical fitness wellness space, I think these last 2 years. And that's what I'm choosing to try to focus on is, where's the opportunity? Where are ways that I can stay healthy, stay well, and provide that for my family and community, through this content. And you guys are doing just that. So thank you.
You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Definitely.